Thank you so much, Edith. Thank you so much, Edith. Edith is one of those people I follow. She's very authentic in the way she does her work in ensuring that children are thriving in the digital age. And key points. Let's not copy. Why are we copying legal frameworks, practices, designs from outside our continent? Why are we not building products using our own culture? So first, I just want to start. Let's just start reflecting on what happened. Is it yesterday or the day before yesterday, depending on where you come from? That ruling in the US, what does it mean for us? Okay, as Africans, as African children, that's something I've been asking people in the last 24 hours. What does it mean for us when it comes to the digital age? They've already found out that it was a design issue. Okay, for us, for those who follow me long enough, they know I've been talking about design issues. Online safety and children thriving in the digital world is all has to do with how these things are designed. Okay, so I have an amazing panel that you're going to be discussing about this digital wellness. Okay, and as a reflection, I'm just going to ask people in the chat as we introduce ourselves, and I introduce my panel. What does digital wellness mean to you? Okay, the first speaker did such an amazing job just doing it from an Afrocentric perspective, bringing issues to do with Ubuntu. In the perspective, I was just doing clocking it like every single one of those points. So I want all the 39 of us, can we just say, put on the chat, what does digital wellness mean to you? And then I'll introduce my amazing panel. My name is Jennifer Kaberi. I work with Mtoto News. Mtoto News is a children's digital media house based in Nairobi, working across Africa and influencing globally. And we believe that digital space is a place where children can be able to thrive, and it's technology is a tool that we can be able to improve children's lives. So, in my panel, I have Cheryl Barnett. Sherry is someone I follow for a very long time. She's doing such an amazing job in South Africa. Hey, Sherry. Hi.
Hi,
Um,
guys. It's such a
hey,
pleasure to
hey,
be here
hey.
with everyone. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Thank you. And then Suliyat Idris, also doing such an amazing job in West Africa. Hi, Suliyat.
Hey guys,
Hey. And Collins. Hi, Collins. Collins did such an amazing job across Eastern Africa. How are you?
I'm fine, Kaberi.
So I'll get, because we have been given like 30 minutes, so I'll just get into the conversation. I'll start with you, Sherry. um so we've had the first conversation talking about Ubuntu, and I think Edith has talked about bringing it takes a village. And then, so at what age, and here we are talking about our context, at what age should parents start teaching digital safety? Okay, and taking consideration now that different countries are moving age of digital consent from 13 to 16. Okay, others have gone to 18, others are going to 21. So at what age should we start teaching our children about
So,
digital safety?
so let's be realistic. What is the first thing that a baby sees today?
uh
It's
Depends.
this.
TV.
It's this.
Or mom's
It is
screen
in
actually.
mom. It is in mom
Yeah.
and dad's hands all the time. So by the time they're about 2 or 3, they don't use it as a tool. They instinctively trust it. They don't see any bad from it. So the hard truth is that parents need to take more care from as young as 2 to 3. Pre-primary schools are reporting that children are coming to school and know how to swipe a smartphone, but don't know how to put a sentence together. So the effects of the phone are damaging our empathy, our language development, because we're putting them in front of the phone from a very young age. And we're not sitting with them while they're watching it. We're not putting boundaries from a young age. And that is what is so essential. The latest the latest legal battle is wonderful, even though I'm a bit annoyed because it's actually just one day's revenue, one day's advertising revenue for Google and Meta, what their fine is. So we need to start seeing some real tangible changes to protect our children. And parents need to stand up. You can no longer just hand over a phone. You got to have agreement with them. I'm going to give you this phone, but you're going to have it for a certain time limit. Set the timer so they don't fight with you. When that timer goes off, it's off. That's what we agreed. That's about setting that boundary. And I know it sounds ridiculous to do it for a young child, but we can't let our children just sit in front of these tiny screens. Their developmental stage is the biggest between 1 and 5 years old. How are you going to learn empathy? How are you going to understand connection? Your fine motor skills when you're just staring at a screen. We need to balance it. And we're not saying no screens. Every family has to make a choice for what suits them and the caregivers as well. But setting that boundary, we don't mind if you're on a screen, but you can only have it for so long. Make sure you know what they're watching. You watch it with them. Ask them questions while they're watching that show. Be involved. Our children are forgetting critical thinking. It is essential to their growth as human beings and how to connect with each other. Sitting our children in front of phones, TV screens, games, it's not going to get us anywhere as a nation, as a world, as a society. And it's a big job because online maturity is happening from a very young age. And then people kind of wake up when their children turn 12 or preteen and go, oh, there's dangers. It's too late. They've already developed those habits. So by setting those habits from an early age, you're actually making your life a little bit easier as you go on. And to Edith's point, which I thought was brilliant, whose responsibility is that? It's parents and it's schools and it's governments and it's the tech companies. We have to make it socially unacceptable to have our children sitting in front of a screen all the time. And it's going to take a long time, but I think with organizations and conversations like this, we can get there. We have to do something differently. The last generation, they pretty much have been exposed to everything. This new generation, we've got a responsibility to make sure that digital safety, digital wellness is as important as the ABCs. We can no longer wait till they're teens. And that's what Social Kids stands for. And I just wanted to roll out to across the world because it's easy to do when they educate. They know, they feel safe to talk, that nothing is too embarrassing from a young age. And the fear of losing that technology as they grow older, that's why they keep quiet. They don't share what's happened. 70% of our children won't share what they see or experience online. That's when they get into the trouble. So having a circle of trust, having a connection with your family, your extended family, and being able to communicate and being taught that from a young age is very important.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And you've said something very important that most children, they're going to school knowing how to swipe before they know how to talk, okay? And this, most of them, is because of modeling, okay? So my next question goes to Suliyat. So what is the role of modeling? We already know, like, nowadays you're breastfeeding on one hand and the phone on this other side, or you're busy recording your child. So your child thinks the phone is an extension of you. So they don't know that they can't separate, especially if you in brain development between the ages of 0 to 2, they think the phone is an extension of you. So according to Suliyat, what is the role of modeling versus directing children towards healthy digital engagement? Okay, there's something I always say, that monkey see, monkey do. Okay, that children do not learn from telling, they learn by seeing. So Suliyat, what is the role of modeling versus directing children towards healthy digital engagement?
Thanks so much, Jennifer. And like I'll say, I think I'm happy that we have someone from NITDA here. And that's because I want to take this from a kind of, from a regulatory point of view, because you see, digital technology has been a normal. It is not something that, like Sherry say, it's not something you think about a later thing. It's what kids should learn alongside literacy and numeracy. Digital wellness literacy is a core skill, like you learn to speak and to write. And that's because even when you are born, the first thing you see now is a phone, because People take pictures of babies, not minding what the lenses does to the eyes of that child. That's how bad it has gone. So I think for parents to think instructing is the way to build digital wellness in the home is a whole faulty model. Foundation, like I said, modeling is a foundational skill in every home now, because kids now, the watch than they listen. Even on the phone, they watch than they read. Most time you see a child watch an old movie and you're asking what happened. Trust me, they're not going to repeat the monologue or the dialogues. You likely repeat the actions. And that's because the movement is the thing. What they see is the thing. The listening ability of kids is gradually dropping. And no one is paying attention to that. And so if that is a reality, that we have kids who do not have strong listening ability, then we need to model what it is to listen to them, right? So, and I can't say I come in, I like, it's gone that bad that you see people, we are all together, but unfortunately we are separated. We are not together. We are just in a room. You can come into our office, 4 people, 4 adults, actually supposed to be negotiating, to be discussing, but unfortunately, each person is on 2 devices, a phone and a laptop, a phone and a laptop, a phone and a laptop. It's even that was that even in a meeting, someone is on, you're on a call, you feel the other person is listening, but the person is actually pressing. No note taking, no, you can see there's no contact. You know this person is not with you. You're just there, you just have a human, but you don't have the human's presence. So distraction is real. So I said, yes, directing is normal, it's very supportive, because you need to direct your kids, you need to put them on the right track. Guidance is key, but even the scripture said that wisdom is profitable to direct. So you need to show these kids watch more than they do, and that's why even in our initiative, what we are doing is now we are now creating children's story that teaches safety and wellness from 5 upward. We just believe at that age they should be able to read small stories on their own. But then there is a little we can do as advocates. There is little we can do as teachers, because the child's first school is the home. What are they saying? It has gone to the extent that even parents do not send their kids to school without sophisticated gadgets. Is that what literacy is all about? Is that what education is all about? It's gone to the extent where early years, that the play groups in schools now basically watch TV for half the day. And they come back home, the mom wants to cook, dumps the phone on the child. And the dad wants to have the boys hang out and put on cartoon. So we've actually channeled their brain to accept the screen as their companion. Parents no longer invest in toys. Even when they say they want to get toys, they prefer a tablet that has a lot of video games. There are a lot of parents have gone as far as even subscribing to channels, to streaming platforms with children's section, thinking that's another way to protect them. But then it will be an error if we keep how do I say, we keep preparing these kids. The word would be, we are trying to prepare them to survive the digital future, but we are not preparing them to thrive in the digital future. It's one thing to be able to use digital skills. It's another thing to survive healthily, to thrive. I think that's the word. It's one thing to be able to use skills, and I see that's doing a lot of work. There's digital literacy for all program. There is the one that happened in local governments across the country. I think we are driving a whole lot of fast wheel towards digital inclusion. Who is talking about digital wellness? So we need to model that. We can't just come and speak about it once in a year and we go back. What happened other 365 days of the year? What happened 364 days of the year? Kids are watching than they listen. Yes, instruction works, direction works, but I'm sorry, if you don't do it, it will be hard for them to act it, because they rely on what they see on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go to Collince, and I'm just going to go back to my notes from the keynote speaker, which I really loved, and probably I would want to talk to you because of something we are creating, a framework on safety by design for Africa. And he said that he was speaking about the circle, and he spoke about some values that are very African, like Ubuntu, Guzo Samba, past orientation, issues to do with extended kinship, rites of passage, and holistic vitalism. Okay, uh, Collince, as how does this concept that of raising digitally well-being manifest in your work, taking consideration of reality, because right now there's that balance of being modern, copying from the modern, but also how do we not copy, how do we bring out what we are? I tell guys, Ubuntu is in our DNA. The only way to remove Ubuntu is just maybe do a huge surgery from all our blood cells to remove Ubuntu. It's something that we have been built in as Africans. Issues to do with the extended families and kinship. It's something that is in us. Okay, how does that manifest in your life? How does in your work? How does holistic resilience, ensuring that it's holistic? And here, holistic, when I'm looking at holistic, I'm looking at not only the child but the ecosystem of the child, the peers, that means siblings, cousins, because it's Africa, we live with cousins and uncles. And then how does it look at the parents and sometimes grandparents, because some in Africa, we become grandparents very early. So how does that look like when you are looking about mindfulness and raising digital well children? And I'm in another conversation. I'm part of a process on defining what digital wellness look like. And when we're doing it, I was asked, what does it look like in Africa? For me, these points he said came out very clearly. Like, it's Ubuntu, where WhatsApp was supposed to be a messaging app, but right now it's a platform that we use to fundraise for funerals or fundraise for weddings, or just be your cousin's group or your other groups, where you connect, you bring the Ubuntu-ness in the technology. So how does that reflect in your work? Yes.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I would like to applaud even the previous speakers who have just spoken, like Andreas and Cheryl. But first, I would like to start by saying the digital world is a roaring ocean, and we cannot stop our children from swimming in it. But we can stop sending them without a life jacket. So what does that mean? So it's something that is really a challenge right now as we speak. We are in that space and will not run out of it. And just allow me to give a bit of statistics, because I normally love to support what I am saying. Because when we say digital wellness, we mean a lot, and we really touch both hardware and software of the being. That's a young person or an adult person. So today in Africa, Africa is facing a dual threat, that is hardware and software. And according to WHO, by 2024, they say they warned us about the non-communicable disease surge. So like the hypertension and type 2 diabetes, I think, if I'm not wrong. So again, they have said by 2030, NCDs will be the leading cause of death in Africa. So if you check so closely and you try to figure out where is this NCD comes from, and where did we go wrong as an entity? We've been so much concentrated on mental health. Of course, that's a big giant, yes, but we've not delved so much on the cause of mental health in Africa amongst the children and adolescents. And there comes a big giant, which is now digital wellness or digital triggered illnesses. So you'll see that the software is crashing. Our children are living digital natives, and they are fighting dopamine war. You know what dopamine means. So even according to UNICEF, in 2021, 1 in 7 adolescents globally lives with a diagnosed mental disorder. So in the African context, where stigma prevent 85% of youth from seeking care, and digital world has become both sanctuary and a source of silent suffering. So I'm just bringing you so close to these figures and see how can we African come up with a tool that really fits us and can be very helpful to our parents, can be very helpful to our workplaces, and can be very helpful to our children, because this should be a collective effort. I understand there are several innovations that have come up, but is it really working? Is it really customized in a way that it fits the need for the young people and it can fight both mental health and physical health aspect of the challenges that we are facing? So that is the NCD that I earlier mentioned. So YIDP, we've been so much working on, if I say YIDP, that's our group now, the Youth Initiative Development Program, which is our organization. We've been so much keenly looking at it and try to collect these right from the young people, trying to engage with them and see how best we can find them. So you find the youths are really fighting. They are so much dropped in an ocean of digital life. There are a lot of information and they consume a lot of junk. So they are so much attacked. Like you'll find a child will roll into the digital space or online the first day they are born, because our parents will tend to give them some funny cartoons. Our parents will not even sing for their children today. They will give them a phone to entertain their children from morning up to evening. You can imagine there is no bonding between a parent and a child. And if you go to the workplaces, there is another scenario. The tech people are so much glued their eyes on the screen. They don't have time for maybe they can stretch, yes, but you know, our workplaces policies so much fight for the needs and the wellness of the tech or the staff that they have. So they concentrate so much on the screen. There are a lot of notifications. They spend most of their time seated. And these are the things that we really need to look and see back where we went wrong. And once we've narrowed down and come up with the tools, I strongly believe our children will be able to have the necessary skills that they can use to navigate the pressure that they are facing today. We will never run out of it, but we'll just have to develop tools that are workable and are tailored by the young people themselves. Over to you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And for me, it's a matter of how do we bring the whole community together. So my next question, I'm going back to you, Cheryl. So we have talked about resilience. We have talked about parenting and the importance of connecting parents. So my next question to you, many parents are overwhelmed, including myself. I have 2 teenagers. My child, my son has just gotten his first phone and he's so excited about all these things. And it's overwhelming when he comes, oh, mommy, see this reel, mommy, see this video. And I'm thinking, God, I really do not want to watch people laughing. You know, it's very overwhelming. What are the biggest risks facing children today, and how can parents realistically manage them? And take consideration that majority of African parents are digital illiterate. So we just concluding our research in 3 African countries, and one of the biggest gap, one of the biggest it's called what thin line, is digital illiteracy for parents, because children are going to parents for support in the digital world.
And they don't know what to do.
And they don't know what. They cannot understand, what are you telling me? So they tell you, go away, I don't understand. So how do you support your child on something? Like, for example, gaming. Which game? Am I going to do Fortnite? Am I going to do Roblox? Am I going to do Minecraft? Or which other new game that comes up? So it's very overwhelming. So how can we support
Jennifer, you're not alone. All parents, even if they are digitally literate, feel overwhelmed. There's so many rules. There's keeping up with the Joneses. It's if my friend's got a phone, I need to play Roblox. Why can't I play Roblox? It's a minefield. But if it's a minefield for the parents, imagine what it's like for that child. You know, us not putting in the boundaries is even worse for leaving that child out there. That game of trial and error in the online world is an extremely dangerous game, because that's when they get into trouble. You know, they willingly click on things. A child's prefrontal cortex is only fully developed, our prefrontal cortex is only fully developed at 25. That's when you can do a quick pro and con list on what is right, what is wrong. So it is overwhelming. There are a lot of rules. There's a lot of a lot of research that half the parents don't actually know about. So that's how we've got to counter that. Parents, grandparents, caregivers, they need to understand what the risks are. And it's things like the empathy gap, shorter attention spans. People are sitting still. What Edith mentioned about the technique, it's real. Kids are having posture problems. As I say that, I have to sit myself up. But what is seen online cannot be unseen. And unfortunately, there's no strangers online. We now have AI master manipulators that are casting their nets far and wide. So how am I even supposed to understand what all of that is about? Very simply, teach yourself, ask questions, go on the journey with your child, you know, and setting those boundaries. Look, you can have your phone for 40 minutes. If you have any, let me come with you on the journey. There's also kid-friendly browsers that you can implement. There are tools and ways that you can manage and monitor it together. To what Edith's point, no phones in alone places. Take the headphones off the YouTube channel. You should be listening to what they're listening to. Switch autoplay off. You know, communicate. UNICEF identified that a major pillar to fight cyberbullying is, wait for it, communication. It's something so simple, and yet none of us are doing it because we're too afraid that we're going to be looked at as bad parents, or the children are going to fight back to us. It's our role to make sure we understand where they're at, limit their apps. And age restrictions are not suggestions. They are there for reasons. You know, if you've got an older child, I often see this with parents as well. They've got a younger child and an older sibling, and they allow that younger child to play the game that older sibling's playing. That's not right. If it's not of the right age, you shouldn't be playing it. If there's a chat on that game, you shouldn't be playing it. And parents can easily set their privacy settings. There are a lot of people that don't know there are privacy settings on gaming consoles, on internet, on smart. There are privacy settings. You have to go and find them and set them to the highest that you can and have the conversation. It really is about asking them those open-ended questions. Why are you here? And most importantly, when something does go wrong, touch wood, if it does, when your child speaks to you, do not overreact. Our job as parents is to listen, ask the question why, and then close the door and freak out quietly. You want that child to be able to feel safe to speak to you, tell you what's happened, and you can calmly together with them solve the problem. Cyberbullying is the 4th highest globally in South Africa alone, let alone Africa. Sexual exploitation, manipulators, predators. We can't stop them, but we can make it harder for them to succeed by forewarning our children, telling them it's safe to talk to me. And I think a very big element for parents to manage that conversation is show your own vulnerabilities. It's okay that you don't understand. Say to your child, I don't understand, show me, so you can learn with them. You know, I got this message from somebody and I didn't like it. I blocked it. Then all of a sudden that behavior, to your point, is, you know, modeled behavior. You've got a model. So if I see my parents feeling a little bit unsure online, maybe I must also be a little bit unsure online. Our children need to know there's good and bad. And that's how parents can communicate with their kids to find out what's making them feel good or bad. So it's all about connection, boundaries, and communication. And as a society, we can't, if we say no phones in our home, we got a right to say to our fellow parents, I'm sorry, that's not the rule in our home because of. And if we share as parents, then maybe you'll change another parent's idea. That's the problem. We're all trying to be what everybody else, what if so-and-so's got a phone, I need a phone, and they're playing that game, and then we get all scared and worried, like, oh, my child's being left behind. No, you've got your phone, you've got your games you're allowed to play, and they are age appropriate. We as parents have to be brave enough to have that conversation with other parents. And we're not, because it's not become socially acceptable to do that.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So I want to bring it back home. Suliyat, the reality is only 40% of African children have access to the internet. So, and most households in Africa have a shared device. So when you're talking about digital wellness in Africa, we have to take into consideration that not all children have individualized phones. Not all children own a phone, and majority actually are sharing a phone for those ones who have a phone. Okay. So how do we ensure digital wellness in Africa? And someone has asked a question, considering that which is arguable, that childhood and child development is the same globally, and devices are the same globally. But in reality, in Africa, no. If what you guys have in across the Pacific or across the Red Sea is very different from what we have here, and also because of our culture and our context, how we consume technology is very, very different. So, how do we ensure digital wellness in Africa where children are thriving for digital inclusion? And I've given you the numbers. 40% of children in Africa, only 40% have access to the internet. And majority are sharing a device. Like it's me. Like I told you, my son just got his first phone. That is out of my own one, but in reality, most households, that is what's happening. A friend of mine who lives in South Africa was telling me, I don't have a phone. I'm sharing a phone with my husband and my children. Okay. And that's a reality in many, many African households. So how do you ensure digital wellness in context like that? Suliyat?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer, for that insightful question, because it's a very complex one. I hear you that maybe in terms of access, it could be 40%. But then the question is, what is the provision of wellness, education, and awareness for those 40%? I think that is where we are lacking. And if you agree with me, the powerful factor that's affecting wellness practices in Africa is not access. It is the peer influence. That's one thing. So it's about what information do those 40% take to the 60% without access. Have you thought about that? In my home, I have 3 kids, 1 tablet and 1 keypad phone, just to call to check in, where are you back or not? And just that 1 tablet is for homework. Maybe they want to watch anything. When I want them to watch it or they have some assignment, I can't give them my phone because perhaps some phones, their screens are even more expensive than the phone. So I'll like, okay, have my Wi-Fi, do your homework, and I get it back. So it's one of those. They have 1 tablet among 3 of them. But then have you imagined what effect that 1 tablet could have if there is no parental control? What impact could it have if I do not monitor their access to the internet? What impact does it have if I do not regulate what needs to be watched there? Just among those 3. Now take it further. When the 3 of them have access to watch, remember they're in a class of at least there are 20 kids in each of their classes. If 4 are their friends, those 4 get influenced by what one person has watched. Multiply that 4 by the 3 classes they all belong to. That's 12 kids. Plus the 3 of them, that's 15 kids from 1 device. The problem about Africa is not about how many kids have access. It's about how many kids have access to the guidelines to proper and healthy use of devices. is the question of how many adults in their environment, in the spaces of those 40%, has the knowledge to educate the child towards proper use of the internet, proper use of the TV, proper use of the remote, proper use of the data. Remember, in some families, like you said, some children are the first generation of internet users. So the parent is not aware. The classroom teacher is less aware. So who guides the child? Most kids are being left to find out on their own. I learned on my own, right? I learned on my own in a space where I was lucky to have learned about the internet in a workspace, where I learned first the value of virtual learning than virtual browsing. I learned more about the value of virtual learning than streaming movies at night. From the comfort of my home, I have certificates in countries I've never been to, that I may likely never be to the end of my life. But that was because that was the first exposure I got to technology. And that would tell to some extent on my kids. And that would also tell to some extent on the kids of the parents who have no idea about what the right use of gadgets is. So it's not about inclusion and access alone. It's about inclusion to digital wellness education. And I'm still calling on NITDA here again. Our ICT curriculum should have digital wellness modules spread from simple to complex, from grade 1 to SS3 to university. Let it be there. The Ubuntu spirit should integrate into our education. We have respect, we have protection. The things you wouldn't say when you see people, do not say it on their pages. That is African, that is respect. Let's make, yes, technology might come from the West, but we are Africans. It is time for us to contextualize everything we accept. When ASA income are coming into this African soil, there should be a regulatory board. What is the content? If it's not suitable, it's not everything that should be dumped on our ground like it's a free market. From devices to application, if it doesn't work with our context, we have the market. You want to come and sell on our soil. There should be regulation. There should be. Africa is not a dumping ground for anyone. We have our own creative, we have our own designers. There should be line. If a food should be screened and certified before we eat it, so should content applications be regulated before we view them, before we use them. In fact, digital products are now food to our souls, to our brain, to our body, to our system. It's affecting our children academically. It's affecting them emotionally. It's affecting them sexually, mentally. So why won't we speak up? We need parents. In fact, we need to start digital awareness advocacy for parents, for teachers, for youth, because those are the children's influencers. Sometimes I get bitter. You go to a class, you read a digital wellness story to a child, you understand. But when you get home, the parent is not understanding. Who supports the child's continuous learning? Nobody. So it's not about access. It's about a systemic, intentional systemic revolution to make digital embracing a digital tool use in Africa. It should be healthy. Healthy digital approach is not optional. It is compulsory. It is a mandate. It is a basic right of the African child. And we can't negotiate that. We can't.
So much. I hear you. I hear you, Suliyat. I know we cannot negotiate that. Okay. And I say there's a thin line. The thin line of digital wellness for our children is the parents. How do we focus on the parents? How do we give these skills and this knowledge to the parents so that they can support their children? I always say, unlike sex, where you as a parent have experienced before and you're able to guide your child, digital world, our parents have never experienced before. So they do not know how to guide their children. So as we work, as we come up with programs, as we focus on children, let's think on how are we going to target the parents? How are we going to ensure that the parents have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do that? Going to the next question, and Collince, you've heard what the two other speakers have said about parenting and their household. So I'm going to combine two questions because I think they are almost together. how can the mind ball model in be integrating wellness and creating low stigma space be applied to digital literacy and online mental health, especially in resource constrained African communities? And how practically can it be implemented at homes? Okay, in homes where, as I said, 40% of children don't have it, and they are sharing one device. Okay, that rich cousin of yours who did some farm work or drove a bike or something and was able to afford a phone comes with a phone, and the whole household is using that phone. Okay, on internet probably that's coming from government. Okay, how do we ensure, how do we implement these amazing skills at the household level? Okay, how do we make them work at the household level in Africa, considering our very unique context, okay, and our culture? Okay, what is Ubuntu? I'm just going to go back to that Ubuntu extended family and stuff like that. How do we make it work?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I salute you, Idris. That was spot on, because we are because I am because we are, and we are because I am. Anyway, just to come straight to the models that we can use in our houses, the economical one, the ones that can really work well. Being the champion of digital wellness, and there is a model that we're coming up with, Jennifer, you mentioned it, Mindball, which is a very good framework, economical. You only need something like a space, which is a field. Because for long, so much, we've been so much into more of a workshop model. We go to classes, but now we forget like they're champions and they're mentors for the young people that we work with. And one of them are coaches and teachers, and one of them are parents, because it all must start from the house. Yeah. And at the state that we are in, generally, young people are really struggling, and they are in their state of, most of them are in red zone. So we call it an alarming moment where they only need something like a spark so that they can explode. So how do parents really create a safe harbor for their children? Yes, you have your children and you've already exposed them to the digital world. Even if you are not, your neighbors are. You have TV all over your house. You have your phones, and then if they go to school, they have those digital devices. If they meet their peers, they still get those digital devices. How do parents create safe harbor for their children? That depends on the languages that they're using. That depends on even the instilling these skills to them and trying as much as possible to have a conversation with them, a one-on-one, the influence and how the languages that they can use online, how they can use data. And I strongly believe technology is good. We are not advocating that we should rubbish technology, but it's only that we really need to train our children to be good citizenship while they are online. We really need to train the coaches who work so closely with the parents, even if they don't understand, they don't have a know-how. Because I understand children spend most of their time with their parents, but they go to the field, and the coaches who are with them in the field, by the way, they are mentors. Whatever a coach has said to a child, they'll be able to comply into it. And how do you simplify the conversation about the digital wellness, breaking it down into the simplest language that they can understand, just by trying to have a game in their midst and trying to relate the kind of the scenarios that they have maybe have passed through while they are playing the game. Of course, if you are playing the game, there must be